the endless turning of celestial wheels, where light births sound and sound weaves light, there comes a moment when even the eternal must bend. The high heavens, those crystalline spires that have sung their radiant chorus since the first breath of creation, now harbor a darkness that seeps like ink through pearl. The prime evil has fallen. Diablo's terrible form lies shattered upon the steps of the crystal arch itself. Yet victory carries within it the seeds of new discord, for in the aftermath of triumph, the victors must decide what to do with the weapon that made their enemy so terribly strong. The Black Soulstone sits in silence, waiting. And in that waiting, the very foundations of heaven begin to crack. The year is 1285 by the Kirgistani reckoning, though time flows differently in the realm of angels than in the mortal world below. 20 years have passed since Deckard Cain first took young Leah into his care in the desert city of Chaldeum. The Nephilim, those children of angel and demon whose power once shook the pillars of creation, have awakened from their long slumber. Their abilities, dormant for millennia, now burn bright as stars in mortal flesh. Tyrael, once the aspect of justice, has made a choice that reverberates through every realm of existence. He has shed his wings, surrendered his immortal essence, and taken mortal form. His transformation was born of necessity. The Angiris Council, bound by laws as immutable as gravity itself, refused to act against the growing darkness in Sanctuary. Where his fellow archangels saw only the need for order, Tyrael saw the potential for something greater, a world where angels and mortals might stand together against the endless tide of the burning hells. But choices, even noble ones, carry consequences. In the wake of the prime evil's defeat, Tyrael has assumed the mantle of wisdom, a role once held by the enigmatic Malthael, who vanished into shadow and mystery ages past. The mortal angel now walks halls that were never meant for feet of flesh and blood, bearing burdens that grow heavier with each passing day. The Angiris Council chambers, those soaring spaces where the fate of all creation is debated, have become a place of growing discord, where once 5 voices spoke in harmony, justice, valor, hope, wisdom and fate. Now, only 4 remain, with the 5th changed beyond recognition. The Black Soulstone rests upon its crystal pedestal like a malignant heart, its faceted surface drinking in the radiant light of the high heavens. Smaller than a mortal skull, yet containing within its obsidian depths the essence of all 7 lords of hell, it represents both ultimate victory and ultimate peril. Created by the mad Horadrim Zoltan Kula through methods that even the angels do not fully comprehend, the artifact pulses with power that defies the natural order. In life, Kula had been a man hollow at his core, seeking to fill the void in his soul with the captured essences of angels and demons alike. His soulstone was to be his surrogate heart, pumping dark energy through his undead form. But Kula's death left his creation intact, and now it has found its way into the very heart of the high heavens. The stone's influence spreads like a slow poison through the crystalline halls. Shadows pool in corners where no shadows should exist. The eternal chorus that flows through heaven's air carries discordant notes that make even the strongest angels pause in discomfort. Most troubling of all, the virtues that define the archangels themselves begin to warp and twist. Tyrael has seen the change most clearly in his visions within Chaladar, the chalice of wisdom. Where once Imperius embodied pure valor, the mortal angel now perceives the first stirrings of something darker, a righteous anger that edges ever closer to wrath, and from wrath toward hatred itself. If left unchecked, this corruption could transform the aspect of valor into something that would make even the lords of hell seem merciful by comparison. The other archangels remain largely unaware of this insidious influence. Auriel, the aspect of hope, still glows with her warm radiance, though Tyrael has noticed faint streaks of grey threading through her golden light. Tyrael, master of fate, grows ever more withdrawn as the future becomes increasingly opaque to his sight. The destiny of mortals, once so clear in the scroll of time, now writhes like smoke, impossible to grasp. The great chamber of the Angiris Council stretches before Tyrael like a cathedral of judgment. Through arching windows, the silver city gleams in eternal day. But here, strangely, the light seems muted. The 4 remaining thrones cast long shadows across the crystal floor, and at the chamber's heart, the Black Soulstone waits upon its pedestal like an accusation made manifest. Imperius, resplendent in his golden armor with the spear of valor crackling at his side, towers above the others as he speaks. His voice carries the weight of absolute conviction, each word ringing like a hammer blow against anvil as he calls for the council to address the still unresolved matter that has dominated their recent debates, the fate of the Black Soulstone. The aspect of valor's gaze falls upon Tyrael with something approaching disdain as he declares that wisdom is no longer with them, that Malthael has gone never to return. The mockery in his tone cuts deeper than any blade as he makes clear his view of Tyrael's transformed state. Auriel, her form wreathed in gossamer light that shifts from gold to silver like captured moonbeams, raises a hand in gentle reproof. Her voice carries the warmth of a mother's comfort, yet beneath it lies an edge of steel as she warns her brother to be careful of his tone, reminding him not to insult Tyrael's decision to rejoin the council, for such behavior does not become him. But Imperius presses forward, his contempt barely contained as he challenges Tyrael to share what insights he has gained from Chaladar. The aspect of valor demands to know what wisdom the chalice has provided regarding the stone's disposal, noting that the council has been divided on this matter for too long. His words carry the weight of rumor and accusation as he suggests that perhaps the whispers among the angels are correct, that Tyrael has yet to consult the sacred vessel at all. All eyes turn to Tyrael, and in that moment he feels the weight of mortality like never before. His throat, flesh and blood and vulnerability, constricts as he looks upon the Soulstone. For an instant, he imagines he sees a pulse of crimson light at its core, a heartbeat of malevolence that makes his mortal blood run cold. The silence stretches until it becomes uncomfortable, and Imperius turns away in disgust. The aspect of valor declares that Malthael would never have been without an answer, yet this one remains silent once again. Speaking for the absent member, he proposes breaking the stone at the Hellforge. Tyrael, the enigmatic aspect of fate, speaks for the first time, his voice carrying the weight of cosmic uncertainty as he warns against the risk of destroying the artifact. He explains that the stone was forged by human magic, making its destiny a mystery even to him. The scroll of fate itself cannot reveal what might result from such an attempt to unmake it. The words that burst from Tyrael's lips carry more force than he intended, declaring that the stone must be hidden his proclamation echoing through the chamber like a thunderclap. The other archangels fall silent, their attention returning to him with renewed intensity. He clears his throat, a gesture so mortally mundane it seems almost blasphemous in this place of eternal majesty. Tyrael continues, fighting to keep his voice steady as he agrees with Tyrael's assessment. He argues that the Black Soulstone's power remains unknown to them, created as it was by the Heradric mage Kula, using magic that only the Nephilim possess. They cannot risk attempting to destroy such a thing, for it might even release the prime evil upon them once more. Oriel's light grows cautious, as if she already knows what he will propose. She questions where such hiding might take place, reminding the Council that they have already discussed shrouding the artifact, but could not reach agreement. The stone cannot remain in the Council chambers forever. Tyrael looks at his fellow archangels, and in their faces he sees not the brothers and sister he once knew, but strangers growing more distant with each passing moment. Even Oriel's radiance seems touched with that same grey taint he has observed elsewhere in the heavens. The corruption is spreading, subtle but inexorable. He had never meant for it to come to this, but the choice is clear. When he speaks the name of the mortal realm, those two words seal his fate and set in motion events that will reshape the cosmic order itself. Days later, in the abandoned realm of wisdom, Tyrael stands before the fount that once served Malthael in his endless contemplations. The pools of wisdom stretch around him, dry and lifeless, their crystal waters long since vanished with their master. The very air here feels thin and cold, as if the realm itself mourns its absent lord. Chaladar rests in Tyrael's hands, a chalice of impossible beauty, its surface reflecting not light, but pure knowledge itself. The artifact hums with potential, waiting for him to peer into its depths and glimpse the threads of possibility that weave through all existence. To control this power will take all the strength he possesses. As Tyrael gazes into the chalice's depths, the thought that he could lose himself forever within those endless pools makes him question whether he has made the right choice. The bottom of the chalice holds a thin film of light, swirling hypnotically like oil on water. At first it seems empty, but then a charge sweeps up from beneath his feet. The world around him grows black as wisdom's domain disappears, and he falls through darkness towards something beyond mortal comprehension. Within that void, sparks dance like fireflies across an expanding surface of liquid light. The chalice's rim recedes into infinite distance as Tyrael tumbles through one world into another, toward what might be truth or might be madness. When he strikes the web of light that waits below, he passes through it without impact. The strands run everywhere, brilliant and bitter cold, weaving a pattern that suddenly becomes clear to his transformed perception. In a flash of terrible understanding, he grasps the connections between all angels and demons, sees the threads that bind their fates together. The vision shows him truths he would prefer never to know, his fellow archangels assembling against him even now, their fear of his mortality overwhelming their ancient bonds of brotherhood. The Black Soulstone has begun its work, twisting the light that sustains heaven into something dark and distorted. Valor evolves toward wrath, and from wrath toward hatred and the desire for mass destruction. Imperius, driven by this corruption, will eventually seek to rule with an iron fist, and sanctuary will be his first target. Far from the pools of wisdom, in chambers where shadows gather despite the eternal light of heaven, Balzael receives his orders from Imperius himself. The lieutenant's golden armor gleams as he listens to words that would have been unthinkable before the Soulstone's arrival. Balzael reports that their quarry has been spotted by scouts, his voice carefully neutral as he reveals his suspicions. He had believed Tyrael was hiding on Sanctuary, and now confirmation comes that the fallen archangel is assembling a team of humans for some purpose that remains unclear. The lieutenant declares with cold certainty that whatever plans Tyrael may be forming, he must not be allowed to see them through to completion. From the darkness steps a figure that even other angels fear to name, a Sicarai, one of heaven's perfect destroyers. His double-bladed weapon glows with inner fire, and his red aura quivers with barely contained bloodlust. Balzael continues, his words carrying the weight of final judgment as he declares that Tyrael cannot be brought back to the heavens to face trial for treason. The lieutenant's voice grows cold with deadly resolve as he issues orders that would have been unthinkable in any previous age. They must act immediately, striking down both the fallen archangel and all those who travel with him, showing no mercy to any who would stand against the celestial order. The Sicarai gives the Luminare salute and vanishes, moving with such speed that only the faintest trace of crackling energy marks his departure. But Balzael's orders hide a deeper purpose, one that even Imperius does not fully understand. The Black Soulstone must have more time to work its influence upon the Council. Tyrael's interference threatens everything. His choice to side with mortals, a direct challenge to plans that stretch far beyond the simple matter of the stone's disposal. For the ultimate goal is nothing less than the complete eradication of the Nephilim, and through them, all of Sanctuary itself. In the mortal realm below, far from the celestial politics that will determine the fate of all creation, a young man named Jacob tends to daily tasks unaware that his destiny is already written in scars upon his flesh. The puckered wound on his shoulder, left by claws that struck in darkness years past, has never fully healed. It aches with cold that has nothing to do with weather, and in his dreams, black wings fill the sky above a burning world. Jacob carries himself with the careful precision of one who has learned not to draw attention, though there was a time when confidence came as naturally as breathing. That confidence died in Tristram, in a moment of terror that left him marked for purposes he cannot understand. Now he moves through the world like a ghost of his former self, unaware that ancient power sleeps in his blood, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Shana, whose wizard's training has barely scratched the surface of her true potential, practices her cantrips in private corners, where none can see the way elemental forces bend to her will with unusual ease. Her magic carries a resonance that trained ears might recognize as something altogether different from mortal sorcery. The echo of angelic song, faint but unmistakable. She moves through the world with quiet determination, her clean scent and careful manner masking the depth of power that flows through her veins. When emotions run high, when anger or fear or desperate need drives her, that power flares like a beacon, drawing the attention of beings both celestial and infernal. Ginvir towers above her companions, not merely in height, but in presence, her barbarian heritage evident in every line of her powerful frame. The battle axe she carries across her shoulder would challenge most men simply to lift. Yet she wields it with the fluid grace of a dancer. Her armor, practical rather than ornate, speaks of battles fought and won, of a warrior who values function over form. But beneath her intimidating exterior lies a heart capable of fierce loyalty and, increasingly, emotions that complicate her relationship with her companions. Her feelings for Jacob burn with an intensity that both strengthens and threatens to destroy the bonds that hold their group together. From the distant kingdom of Ivgorod comes Mikolov, a monk whose understanding extends far beyond the physical disciplines of his order. His bald head gleams in sunlight as he moves with the fluid precision of one who's achieved perfect harmony between mind, body, and spirit. The wooden beads around his neck mark him as a seeker of inner truth, while his muscled form speaks of outer strength honed through years of dedicated practice. Mikulov possesses a sensitivity to spiritual disturbances that makes him invaluable to any group venturing into realms where the natural order grows thin. He can sense the presence of beings from other planes, feel the pull of magical forces, and read the emotional currents that flow between people like a monk reading scripture. The necromancer Zael carries secrets in the shadows of his robes, his pale face marked by eyes that have looked upon death and found it neither friend nor enemy, but simply another aspect of existence to be understood. His knowledge of the balance, that cosmic equilibrium between life and death, order and chaos, gives him insights that others find both valuable and deeply unsettling. At his belt hangs a leather pouch that occasionally speaks with the voice of Humbart, a skull whose undead consciousness provides commentary both useful and irreverent. The relationship between necromancer and deceased companion represents the kind of partnership that makes traditional warriors like Ginvir deeply uncomfortable, yet their effectiveness cannot be denied. These 5 individuals, drawn together by forces they barely comprehend, will soon find themselves at the center of a conspiracy that threatens not merely their own lives, but the continued existence of all mortal creation. Each carries within them the potential for greatness, the Nephilim heritage that marks them as children of 2 worlds, inheritors of both angelic virtue and demonic passion. But potential means nothing without opportunity, and opportunity without guidance leads only to destruction. They will need a teacher, a leader who understands both the power they possess and the enemies they will face. The confrontation with Balzael in the council chambers serves as both warning and final judgment. When the Lieutenant of Imperius questions Tyrael's right to approach the Black Soulstone, when he speaks of mortal souls being easily corrupted, the transformed archangel understands that his time in the high heavens has come to an end. Tyrael reminds the golden-armored warrior that he had commanded him not long ago, questioning whether Balzael has forgotten this so soon. But the lieutenant's response carries the implicit backing of Imperius himself, and in that moment, Tyrael realizes that his fellow archangels have already made their decision. He is no longer truly one of them, no longer trusted with the great matters that shape the cosmos. His transformation from justice to wisdom, from immortal to mortal, has marked him as other in their eyes. The emergency vote called by Oriel offers a final chance for reconciliation, but even her support comes wrapped in gentle farewell. She expresses her wish that he had continued to try to work through the council, acknowledging that perhaps they gave him no choice. Her words carry both regret and understanding as she apologizes for not listening to him, and sorrow that he has chosen this path away from the only home he has ever known. Ithrael's words carry the weight of cosmic finality, as he declares that while Tyrael is no longer an archangel, he remains a member of the Council. The aspect of fate acknowledges that Tyrael acted with the best intentions to save both worlds, and for that reason he shall not be judged in this place. Instead, Ithrael expresses hope that the fallen angel will find the answers he seeks elsewhere, admitting that Tyrael's fate has become unknown even to his sight. And so Tyrael descends once more to Sanctuary, carrying with him the burden of knowledge and the weight of choices that will echo through eternity. But this time, he does not come alone. Hidden within his mortal robes, wrapped in cloth that cannot contain its significance, rests Chaladar itself, the chalice of wisdom that once belonged to Malthael. Westmarch rises from the coastal plains like a testament to mortal ambition, its walls and towers speaking of centuries spent in defiance of the darkness that perpetually threatens to engulf the world. The city serves as a nexus point where various traditions meet and sometimes clash. Zakarum temples standing alongside Templar strongholds, merchant quarters where goods from across the known world change hands, and hidden corners where those who traffic in darker arts practice their crafts away from disapproving eyes. It is here that Tyrael begins to gather his mortal allies, drawn by signs and portents that speak to his transformed understanding of destiny. The Nephilim bloodline runs strong in this region, manifesting in individuals whose talents far exceed what their training alone should allow. These are the descendants of the first children born when angel and demon mingled their essences in the creation of Sanctuary, and though diluted by countless generations, their heritage burns bright when properly awakened. The Inn of the Snapping Dog becomes their unofficial headquarters, its flea-bitten rooms and raucous tavern providing cover for activities that would draw unwanted attention in more respectable establishments. Here, over meals of mutton and bread washed down with local mead, plans take shape that will determine whether the Black Soulstone remains in celestial hands or finds its way to a hiding place where its influence cannot corrupt the very foundations of creation. Beyond Westmarch's walls lie the ruins of civilizations that rose and fell long before mortal memory began to record such things. Here, among broken stones carved with symbols that predate human understanding, Tyrael begins the delicate work of awakening his companion's true potential. The training does not follow any traditional path, for what they must learn has never been taught before. These mortals must prepare themselves to walk in realms where their very presence will be seen as violation, to stand before beings whose power could unmake them with a thought, to steal from the heart of heaven itself an artifact that even the angels fear to touch. Tyrael explains, as they gather in circles among the ancient stones, that their abilities are all drawn from the same source. He tells them that those who have shown the strength to bend the elements, tap into magic, wield spells, and slay demons in Sanctuary have already learned to harness some of their Nephilim powers and can accomplish so much more if given the chance. He speaks of how they have felt the breaking of emotions within them, an awakening of the blood that will allow them to reach new heights. Now they must learn to harness and control these forces, for they will be used against them in the realms of the heavens. The training is neither gentle nor forgiving. In places where reality grows thin, where the barriers between worlds weaken under the weight of ancient magic, Tyrael forces his companions to confront not merely external enemies, but the depths of their own souls. Each must face personal demons made manifest, must learn to draw strength from pain, hope from despair, unity from division. Jacob learns to trust instincts he has long suppressed, to reach for power that sleeps in his blood like a banked fire, waiting for the right breath to fan it into flame. Shannar's magic grows more precise, more attuned to frequencies that angels themselves would recognize as their own sacred song. Ginvir discovers that strength of arm means nothing without strength of spirit, while Mikulov finds his spiritual insights sharpening to the point where he can sense disturbances across vast distances. Even Zael, master of death's mysteries, must expand his understanding to encompass not merely the balance as it exists in sanctuary, but as it flows through all the realms of creation. As training progresses and the mortal companions grow stronger in their understanding of the forces they must face, Tyrael reveals the true scope of what they attempt. This is not merely a mission to relocate a dangerous artifact, though that alone would justify the risk. The Black Soulstone represents something far more significant, a weapon in a war that most mortals do not even know is being fought. The Angiris Council's corruption proceeds according to patterns that Tyrael has witnessed in the depths of Chaladar. If the stone remains in the high heavens, its influence will eventually transform the archangels into something far worse than the demons they have fought for eternity. Demons, at least, are honest in their malevolence. Angels corrupted by the essence of the seven evils would possess all the power of their celestial nature, coupled with a sadistic cunning that would make Diablo himself seem merciful by comparison. But the immediate threat lies in Imperius's growing obsession with the final solution to the Nephilim problem. The aspect of valor has never trusted mortals, and under the stone's influence, that distrust is crystallizing into active hatred. Plans are already in motion, plans that involve not merely the destruction of the most powerful Nephilim, but the complete eradication of Sanctuary itself. Tyrael explains during one of their clandestine meetings that the other archangels are assembling against him even now. He reveals how they view his transformation as betrayal, his advocacy for mortals as corruption. If he remains in the high heavens, he knows his days of freedom are numbered. But more than that, he warns them that if the stone remains where it is, the corruption of his fellow archangels will become complete. The weight of this revelation settles over the group like a shroud. They are not merely attempting to steal from heaven, they are trying to prevent heaven itself from becoming hell. Unknown to Tyrael and his companions, their activities have not gone unnoticed. The Sicarii dispatched by Balzael moves through Sanctuary like a shadow given form, tracking their movements with the patience of a predator that knows its prey cannot escape forever. This destroyer, one of heaven's perfect killing machines, feels no doubt about the righteousness of his mission. In his mind, shaped by eons of absolute loyalty to the celestial hierarchy, Tyrael's actions represent the worst kind of betrayal, that of a brother against his own family. But the Sicarii is not the only threat they face. Within Westmarch itself, darker forces stir in response to their presence. The necromancer Zael, with his sensitivity to spiritual disturbances, has noted signs that trouble him greatly. Restless spirits gathering in unusual numbers, the balance itself seeming to shift and waver, phantoms from ages past stirring to unnatural life. These are not random occurrences, but symptoms of a deeper problem. The mere presence of the Black Soulstone in the high heavens has begun to affect the fundamental forces that keep the various realms of existence separate and stable. If these disturbances continue to grow, the careful barriers that prevent sanctuary from being overrun by both angels and demons could collapse entirely. As the scope of their mission becomes clear, Tyrael finds himself struggling with burdens that his immortal existence never prepared him to bear. Doubt gnaws at his newfound mortality like a physical pain. His back aches, his knees protest when he rises too quickly, and in quiet moments he can feel the weight of years that will eventually claim him as they claim all mortal creatures. The legendary chalice Chaladar calls to him constantly, offering the promise of insight at the cost of confronting truths that might shatter his resolve entirely. The artifact responds to his touch with visions that are both exhilarating and terrifying, showing him potential futures where every choice leads to different forms of catastrophe. In some visions, he sees sanctuary burning under the righteous fire of corrupted angels. In others, demons pour through breaches in reality, while the remaining archangels stand paralyzed by their own internal conflicts. In still others, the Nephilim themselves turn to darkness, their power becoming a tool for the very forces their ancestors fought to escape. But occasionally, in moments of perfect clarity, he glimpses possibilities that justify all the risk. A future where angels and mortals stand together against the darkness, where the eternal conflict finally ends, not in victory for either side, but in something greater than both. These visions of hope, fragile as morning mist, but beautiful beyond description, give him the strength to continue despite the mounting odds against their success. The moment of departure arrives, not with fanfare, but with whispered words in hidden chambers beneath Westmarch. Tyrael has spent days in preparation, consulting both ancient texts recovered from the scholar Cholik's hidden sanctum and the ever-enigmatic depths of Chaladar. The timing must be perfect. They must strike when the Angiris Council is occupied with other matters, when the guard rotations place the fewest sentries near the Black Soulstone's resting place. The portal Tyrael opens is unlike anything his mortal companions have ever experienced. Where demon gates burn with hellfire and mortal magic creates rifts that tear reality like fabric, this passage into the high heavens opens like a flower blooming in reverse, petals of pure light folding back to reveal a pathway that seems to lead upward through infinite space. One by one, they step through, and each experiences the transition differently. Jacob feels as though he is dissolving into component parts and being reassembled elsewhere, his consciousness scattered across vast distances before snapping back into focus. Shanar's magical senses are overwhelmed by the sheer density of power that flows through every mote of celestial matter. Ginvir's warrior instincts scream warnings about entering a realm where strength of arm means nothing against beings who can reshape reality with a thought. Mikulov finds himself surprisingly at peace during the transition, his spiritual training allowing him to flow with the current rather than fighting against it. Zale, perhaps most disturbed by the experience, feels the balance itself shifting around him as they move from a realm where death gives meaning to life into one where neither death nor life have any meaning at all. They emerge in Auriel's domain, among crystalline trees that chime with celestial music and paths that spiral through impossible geometries. The air itself glows with soft radiance, and every surface reflects not light, but hope itself, a substance more real here than stone or metal. This choice of entry point is both strategic and deeply personal for Tyrael. Of all his fellow archangels, Auriel has shown the most sympathy for his transformation, the most willingness to consider that his path might hold wisdom rather than folly. But even here, in the realm dedicated to hope and renewal, he can see the signs of corruption, faint grey streaks threading through Auriel's golden light, shadows pooling in corners where no shadows should exist. The group moves with careful stealth through groves where angels sit in meditation, their forms so beautiful that simply looking upon them threatens to overwhelm mortal senses. These beings pay no attention to the intruders, lost as they are in contemplation of concepts that have no names in any mortal language. But their very presence serves as a reminder of how far they have come from their own world, how alien and dangerous this realm truly is. Tyrael whispers as they navigate between the meditation groves, reminding them that angels are not their friends in this realm. He warns that these celestial beings are as dangerous as the denizens of the burning hells, perhaps more so because they will strike from behind a curtain of blinding light and majesty. His words prove prophetic sooner than expected. The destroyer sent by Balzael has tracked them even here, moving through the celestial realm with the silent efficiency of a perfect predator. Unlike the other angels who exist in states of contemplation or active service to cosmic principles, the Sicarii lives only for destruction. His double-bladed weapon pulses with eager hunger, and his red aura flickers with anticipation of the slaughter to come. He could have struck during their passage through the gardens, could have ended their mission before it truly began. But the Sicarii possesses a patience born of absolute confidence in his eventual victory. Better to let them reach their destination, to allow them to believe they might succeed, before revealing the futility of their efforts. The psychological effect will be so much more satisfying that way. Their path leads them through realms that speak to different aspects of celestial existence. They pass through courtyards, where the very stones hum with the resonance of creation itself, halls lined with tapestries that depict events from the formation of the universe to possible futures not yet written. The architecture defies mortal understanding. Stairs that lead up and down simultaneously, doorways that open onto the same room from impossible angles, chambers that exist in more dimensions than the human mind can process. When they finally reach the abandoned pools of wisdom, the contrast with the vibrancy of Auriel's domain strikes them like a physical blow. Here, where Malthael once contemplated the deepest mysteries of existence, only emptiness remains. The pools that should contain waters of pure knowledge have run dry, their crystal basins reflecting nothing but the grey light of a realm in decline. The silence here is absolute, the kind of quiet that makes even whispered words seem like shouts. Their footsteps produce no sound, their breathing creates no echo. It is as if the very concept of noise has been banished from this place, leaving behind only the hollow shell of what was once the most intellectually vibrant realm in all of heaven. But this emptiness serves their purpose. In a domain where even angels fear to tread, where the absence of their former lord has created a dead zone in the cosmic order, they can move without fear of immediate discovery. From here, they must make their way to the very heart of the Silver City, to the council chambers where the Black Soulstone waits upon its pedestal like a spider in its web. The path from Wisdom's domain to the council chambers leads through the most heavily travelled areas of the Silver City. Here, angels go about their eternal duties with purpose that has not wavered since the first day of creation. Some tend to the great mechanisms that maintain the barriers between realms. Others compose the songs that keep the crystal arch resonating with life-giving power. Still others stand guard over portals and passages that lead to realms mortals were never meant to see. Moving through these areas requires all of Tyrael's knowledge of celestial patterns and protocols. He leads them along maintenance passages used by lesser angels, through service corridors that exist to support the grand architecture, but are beneath the notice of more important beings. When direct passage is impossible, he calls upon his authority as a member of the Angiris Council, though he knows each such use increases the risk of their presence being reported to Imperius. The group's mortal nature works both for and against them in this environment. On one hand, they are so far beneath the notice of most angels that they might as well be invisible. Celestial beings operate on scales of time and significance that make individual mortals seem like brief flickers of existence, barely worth acknowledging. On the other hand, those few angels who do notice them react with surprise that quickly turns to suspicion. It is during one such encounter that their careful stealth nearly comes to an end. A patrol of Luminare warriors, their golden armor blazing with inner light, blocks their path through one of the main thoroughfares. These are not the meditation-focused angels of Auriel's domain, but active guardians whose duty is to maintain order throughout the celestial realm. Their leader, a being whose very presence makes the air shimmer with barely contained power, raises a hand that glows like a captured star. The angel commands them to halt, his voice carrying harmonics that resonate in the bones of every mortal present as he questions what purpose brings flesh and blood into the sacred halls. Tyrael steps forward, drawing upon reserves of authority that feel increasingly tenuous with each passing moment. He identifies himself as the aspect of wisdom and member of the Angiris Council, explaining that these mortals serve at his discretion, carrying out duties that concern the safety of all creation. The lie comes easily, born of desperation and the knowledge that truth would mean instant destruction for his companions. But the Luminare leader is not easily satisfied. The angel's response acknowledges that Tyrael's transformation has been noted throughout the Silver City, his tone carrying neither approval nor condemnation, but something far more dangerous: curiosity. He mentions that there are those who question whether mortality and wisdom can coexist, suggesting that perhaps these companions represent some form of experiment. For a moment that stretches like eternity, the balance hangs on the edge of a blade. The Luminare could demand detailed explanations, could escort them directly to Imperius, could simply decide that the risk of allowing mortals in the high heavens outweighs any potential benefit. But Tyrael's reputation, even tarnished by his transformation, still carries weight. More importantly, the rigid, hierarchical thinking that governs angelic society works in their favor. The idea that a member of the Angiris Council might be engaged in outright theft is so fundamentally incompatible with their understanding of cosmic order that it simply does not occur to them as a possibility. The leader finally declares that they shall not delay them further, stepping aside with his patrol. He offers words of departure, wishing that wisdom may guide the aspect well. They pass through the checkpoint, but Tyrael knows their time is running short. Word of their presence will spread, and eventually it will reach ears that are far less willing to grant them the benefit of doubt. The Angiris Council chambers rise before them like a cathedral dedicated to the concept of judgment itself. The architecture speaks of authority that has existed since the first moment of creation. Walls that have witnessed debates over the fate of entire universes. Floors that have supported the weight of decisions that shaped the course of the eternal conflict. But now, those same chambers harbor an intrusion that corrupts everything around it. The Black Soulstone sits upon its crystal pedestal at the chamber's heart, drawing in the radiant light of the high heavens and giving nothing back but shadow. Its faceted surface reflects not the beauty that surrounds it, but hints of the malevolence contained within. 7 evils compressed into a space smaller than a mortal skull, yet vast enough to contain infinite hatred. Approaching the stone requires more than simple stealth. The artifact's very presence creates distortions in the fabric of reality, making it impossible to simply walk up and take it. Powerful wards, both magical and metaphysical, surround the pedestal. These protections were not designed to keep out thieves. The very concept of theft in the high heavens was unthinkable until this moment, but to contain the stone's influence and prevent it from spreading its corruption too rapidly through the celestial realm. Tyrael warns as they gather in the shadows at the chamber's edge that each of them must understand what they are about to touch. He explains that this artifact contains the essence of every great evil that has ever threatened creation. Merely being in its presence will assault their minds with visions of terror, despair, and malevolence beyond mortal comprehension. When they take hold of it, they will feel the whispers directly, the attempts to corrupt their thoughts and turn them into vessels for the evil's return. Jacob, whose shoulder bears the mark of a Sicari's claws, steps forward with grim determination and asks what they need to do. The plan they have rehearsed dozens of times in the ruins outside Westmarch now unfolds with desperate precision. Mikulov's spiritual training allows him to sense the ebb and flow of the ward's power, finding the brief moments when they weaken enough to allow passage. Shanar's awakened abilities resonate with the angelic frequencies that maintain the protective barriers, letting her mask their approach with harmonics that register as normal fluctuation rather than intrusion. Zael's necromantic knowledge proves crucial in dealing with the spiritual pressure emanating from the stone itself. The balance that governs his magic allows him to create a buffer zone of neutral energy, protecting his companions from the worst of the artifact's immediate effects. Meanwhile, Ginvir stands ready to physically seize the stone when the moment comes, her barbarian heritage providing the raw strength and mental fortitude needed to withstand direct contact with concentrated evil. But it is Jacob who must take the final step, whose touch will actually lift the Black Soulstone from its resting place. The mark upon his shoulder, burned there by a creature of heaven's own making, creates a resonance with the stone that allows him to handle it without being immediately overwhelmed by its power. As his fingers close around the artifact, the chamber explodes into chaos. The stone's removal triggers every alarm and ward in the Silver City. Bells that have remained silent since the founding of creation begin to ring with discordant notes that speak of violation and theft. Light itself seems to recoil from the artifact's surface, creating a bubble of absolute darkness around Jacob that spreads outward like a plague. But worse than any alarm is the stone's reaction to being moved. Freed from the constraints that held it in place, the artifact begins to pulse with malevolent life. Whispers in languages that predate speech assault the minds of everyone present, offering power, promising vengeance, threatening torments that would make the burning hells seem like paradise by comparison. Jacob staggers under the mental assault, his consciousness fragmenting under the weight of 7 different forms of absolute evil. In that moment of vulnerability, the mark on his shoulder flares with cold fire, and power flows through him that he has never felt before. Nephilim heritage awakening in response to desperate need. It is then, in their moment of apparent triumph, that the Sicarii finally reveals himself. The destroyer emerges from shadows that should not exist in this place of eternal light, his double-bladed weapon already moving in arcs, designed to separate souls from bodies with surgical precision. The angel speaks, his voice carrying all the cold judgment of heaven's absolute law as he denounces them as thieves and traitors, declaring that their blasphemy ends here. The battle that follows defies every natural law that governs mortal existence. The Sicarii moves with speed that turns him into a blur of deadly light, his weapon striking from impossible angles with force sufficient to cleave mountains. Against such power, mortal strength seems laughable, mortal skill inadequate, mortal courage nothing more than a brief delay before inevitable destruction. But these are not ordinary mortals. Ginvir's battle-axe, forged with techniques passed down through generations of barbarian weaponsmiths, meets the Sicarii's blade in a shower of sparks that burn like fallen stars. Her strength, enhanced by awakening Nephilim blood, allows her to match the destroyer's supernatural power for brief moments. Shannar's magic, now fully resonant with angelic frequencies, creates barriers of force that actually deflect attacks that should have been unstoppable. Mikulov moves with fluid grace that seems to anticipate the Sicarii's strikes before they are made, his spiritual awareness allowing him to read the flow of combat in ways that transcend mere physical perception. Zale calls upon the darkest aspects of his necromantic training, summoning forces that make even an angel pause in momentary uncertainty. But it is Jacob, bearing the Black Soulstone and driven by power he barely understands, who finally brings the destroyer down. The Nephilim heritage that sleeps in his blood awakens fully under the artifact's influence, giving him access to abilities that represent the fusion of angelic and demonic power. In a moment of perfect clarity, he strikes with force that transcends the merely physical, delivering a blow that shatters not just the Sicarii's form, but the certainty that has guided the angel's existence since his creation. The destroyer falls, his weapon clattering across crystal floors as his light dims and finally dies. But victory comes at a terrible cost. Zale's sacrifice to save Jacob's life represents more than the loss of a hand. It symbolizes the price that mortals must pay when they dare to challenge the cosmic order. The necromancer's severed appendage, blackened by energies no mortal flesh was meant to touch, serves as a stark reminder that their success has come at the edge of catastrophe. But they have succeeded. Ginvir secures the Black Soulstone in a specially prepared satchel that Commander Nar crafted for this purpose, its interior lined with materials designed to contain the artifact's worst emanations. The weight of the stone seems to increase as they prepare to leave, as if it grows heavier with each step that takes it farther from its intended resting place. Behind them, the council chambers lie in ruins. Crystal structures that had stood since the first day of creation bear cracks that speak of fundamental damage to reality itself. The very air shimmers with instability, and in the distance they can hear the sound of approaching reinforcements, entire legions of luminary warriors summoned by alarms that continue to ring throughout the Silver City. Their escape route, carefully planned and rehearsed, now seems impossibly distant. The journey back through the high heavens becomes a running battle against forces that seem to emerge from every shadow, every reflection, every surface that should have been safe. The theft of the Black Soulstone has done more than trigger alarms. It has fundamentally disrupted the cosmic order that keeps the celestial realm stable. Reality itself begins to fray at the edges, creating pockets of chaos where the laws of physics become mere suggestions. Mikhailov leads the desperate flight, his enhanced perception allowing him to navigate through distortions that would trap them in spatial loops or temporal eddies. Behind them pours an army of luminare in flight, their blazing wings darkening the sky as they spread out in pursuit formation. Bolts of pure energy rain down like lightning, each one capable of reducing a mortal to component atoms. The monk dodges and spins with inhuman grace, his movements creating afterimages that confuse their pursuer's aim. When he spots his companions near the portal they established in Auriel's domain, he gestures wildly for them to run to the portal while avoiding another barrage of energy bolts. The final dash through the Gardens of Hope becomes a nightmare of collapsing beauty. The crystalline trees that once chimed with celestial music now scream in harmonics that threaten to shatter mortal minds. The paths that spiraled through impossible geometries fold in on themselves, creating mazes that lead nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. But somehow, driven by desperation and the knowledge that failure means not just their deaths, but the eventual destruction of sanctuary itself, they reach the portal. One by one, they throw themselves through the passage between worlds, carrying with them an artifact that was never meant to leave the high heavens. The portal collapses behind them with a sound like the death of stars, sealing off their escape route and ensuring that pursuit will be delayed, if not prevented entirely. They emerge in the mortal realm, gasping, bloodied, and forever changed by what they have witnessed and done. Back in Sanctuary, in hidden chambers beneath Westmarch, where their allies wait with barely contained anxiety, the true work begins. The Black Soulstone cannot simply be hidden away like a common treasure. Its very presence in the mortal realm creates disturbances that ripple outward like stones thrown into still water. The spirits that Zale sensed gathering in unusual numbers now press closer to the boundaries between life and death, drawn by energies that speak to the fundamental forces that shaped creation. Tyrael, exhausted by the effort of maintaining his mortal form under such extreme stress, studies the artifact with new understanding. The visions granted by Chaladar take on deeper meaning now that he has felt the stone's power directly. He sees the threads of possibility spreading outward from this moment, some leading to hope, others to despair, all of them dependent on choices not yet made. He tells his companions as they gather in the lamplight of their hidden sanctuary that they have bought time, but time is all they have bought. The stone's removal from the high heavens will force Imperius to act more quickly than he intended, but it will also free him from the artifact's direct influence. In some ways, Tyrael warns, they may have made him more dangerous rather than less. The truth of those words settles over them like a shroud. They have succeeded in their immediate goal, but success has only revealed the true scope of the challenges they face. The war between heaven and hell continues, but now mortals have inserted themselves into the conflict as active participants rather than mere victims. In the days that follow their return, the effects of their actions ripple outward through all the realms of creation. In the high heavens, Imperius rages with fury that transcends his previous contempt for mortals. The theft represents not just the loss of a powerful artifact, but a fundamental challenge to the cosmic order that has governed existence since its beginning. Angels, he declares in sessions of the truncated Angiris Council, were never meant to be defied by beings of flesh and blood. But without the Black Soulstone's direct influence, some of his fellow archangels begin to question the path they have been following. Auriel, freed from the worst of the artifact's corruption, remembers why she once advocated for Sanctuary's protection. Tyrael finds that the futures he glimpses in the Scroll of Fate become clearer, less clouded by the interference that emanated from the seven evils' compressed essence. In Sanctuary itself, the Nephilim heritage begins to manifest more strongly in those whose bloodlines carry the potential. The theft of the Black Soulstone has served as a catalyst, awakening powers that have slept for generations. Heroes rise in response to new threats, their abilities growing stronger as they face challenges that would have been insurmountable for previous generations. The necromancer Zael, despite his sacrifice, finds that his connection to the balance has actually deepened. The loss of his hand has created a unique resonance with forces of dissolution and transformation, giving him insights into the fundamental processes that govern existence and decay. His partnership with the undead skull Humbart takes on new dimensions as they explore mysteries that few mortals have ever contemplated. Mikulov returns to his spiritual practices with enhanced understanding of the connections between all things. His experience in the high heavens has shown him how the cosmos truly operates, the vast machinery of creation that continues its work regardless of the conflicts that rage within it. This knowledge brings both peace and responsibility, the peace of understanding his place in the greater scheme, and the responsibility to use that understanding wisely. Ginvir channels her awakened Nephilim heritage into forms of strength that go far beyond mere physical power. Her weapons become conduits for forces that transcend the material plane. Her presence on battlefields enough to turn the tide against enemies that would terrify ordinary mortals. But with power comes the burden of deciding how to use it, when to act, and when to refrain from action. Shannar's magical abilities continue to evolve, her spells resonating with frequencies that angels themselves would recognize as sacred song. She becomes a bridge between mortal understanding and celestial truth. Her magic serving to heal not just physical wounds, but the deeper spiritual damage that results from exposure to forces beyond mortal comprehension. And Jacob, marked by both darkness and light, carries within him the potential to become something entirely new, a being who embodies the best aspects of both his angelic and demonic heritage while transcending the limitations of either. The power that awakened during their desperate flight from heaven continues to grow, guided by wisdom rather than impulse, shaped by choices that will determine not just his own fate, but the future of all mortals who share his unique heritage. The Black Soulstone finds its new resting place in chambers that exist between the spaces of normal reality, hidden sanctuaries that Tyrael creates using knowledge gained through his transformation and his deep understanding of the cosmic forces that shape existence. These are not mere physical hiding places, but pocket dimensions that exist parallel to sanctuary without being part of it, accessible only to those who know the precise combinations of will, power, and intention required to open the pathways between worlds. Here, surrounded by wards that draw upon both angelic wisdom and Nephilim strength, the artifact rests in isolation that protects the rest of creation from its influence while ensuring that it cannot be easily found by those who would misuse its power. The chamber itself reflects the hybrid nature of its creators, crystalline structures that echo the architecture of the high heavens, combined with earthier elements that speak to the mortal realm's connection to more fundamental forces. But even in this carefully constructed prison, the Black Soulstone continues to exert its influence on the cosmic order. Its removal from the high heavens has created ripples that will be felt for generations to come. Subtle changes in the balance of power that shift the entire foundation upon which the eternal conflict has been fought. Tyrael's use of Chaladar throughout their mission has taken its toll on his mortal form. The chalice's visions, while invaluable for understanding the consequences of their actions, have aged him in ways that go beyond mere physical deterioration. His eyes now carry the weight of seeing too many possible futures, his mind stretched by exposure to cosmic truths that mortal consciousness was never meant to contain. Yet he does not regret the choices that brought him to this point. In quiet moments, when the immediate urgency of crisis gives way to contemplation, he finds himself marveling at the complexity and beauty of the mortal experience. The ache in his back speaks not just of physical limitation, but of a form of existence where every moment carries weight precisely because it will not last forever. The uncertainty that once terrified him now seems like a gift. The freedom to shape destiny through choice rather than simply following predetermined patterns. His relationship with his former brothers and sister in the Angiris Council will never be the same. But perhaps that is as it should be. The bonds that once united them were forged in an understanding of existence that no longer applies. Mortals have proven themselves capable of defying cosmic law, of choosing their own paths even when those paths lead into unknown territory. The old certainties no longer hold, and new possibilities emerge from the chaos of change. The success of their mission resonates through communities of those who still remember the old stories, who speak in whispers of the Haradrim and their ancient battles against the forces of darkness. Word spreads along trade routes and through tavern conversations, growing and changing with each telling until it becomes something between history and legend. But more than stories, their actions have practical consequences that reshape the balance of power throughout Sanctuary. Other Nephilim, sensing the awakening of their heritage in those who participated in the theft, begin to explore their own potential. Monasteries and academies dedicated to understanding these emerging abilities spring up in hidden corners of the world, their students learning to harness powers that previous generations could only dream of possessing. The forces of hell, deprived of the Black Soulstone's power and forced to contend with a new generation of heroes whose abilities rival those of the ancient Nephilim, must adapt their strategies accordingly. No longer can they rely on overwhelming mortals through sheer power. Now they must employ subtlety, corruption, and misdirection to achieve their goals. In the high heavens, the theft forces a fundamental reconsideration of angels' relationship with the mortal realm. Some, led by Imperius, double down on their conviction that mortals represent a threat that must be eliminated. Others, influenced by Oriel's renewed advocacy for Sanctuary's protection, begin to see potential for cooperation rather than domination. The stage is set for conflicts that will make the previous eternal conflict seem like a mere prologue to the greater story that is about to unfold. As seasons turn and years pass, the hidden guardians of the Black Soulstone maintain their vigil in the spaces between worlds. They grow older, their original mission evolving into something broader and more complex as new threats emerge to challenge the delicate balance they have helped to create. Tyrael, now truly mortal in ways that extend beyond mere physical form, finds himself becoming something unprecedented in cosmic history. An angel who ages, who learns from experience rather than eternal knowledge, who faces uncertainty with courage rather than predetermined confidence. His guidance helps shape a new generation of heroes, mortals, whose Nephilim heritage allows them to stand against forces that would have destroyed their ancestors. The companions who accompanied him on that desperate mission into the high heavens become legends in their own right, their names spoken with reverence by those who understand the true scope of what they accomplished. But they remain mortals, subject to the same limitations and blessed with the same freedoms as all their kind. And in the deepest chambers of their hidden sanctuary, the Black Soulstone waits. Its power remains intact, its threat undiminished, its potential for both salvation and destruction as great as ever. 7 evils compressed into crystalline form, held in check not by force, but by the constant vigilance of those who understand what would happen if it were ever freed. The story of their theft will echo through the ages, inspiring some to greatness and others to folly. Heroes will rise to face new threats, and some will fall to challenges that exceed their strength. The eternal conflict will continue in new forms, fought by new champions in arenas that span multiple realms of existence. But in the spaces between certainty and chaos, in the margins where mortal will meets cosmic force, something new has been born. The age of mortals as passive victims of greater powers has ended. The age of mortals as active participants in their own destiny has begun. And in that beginning lies the hope that neither heaven nor hell anticipated, that the children of 2 worlds might someday transcend the limitations of both, creating something greater than the sum of their inherited natures. The Black Soulstone sleeps in its crystal cage, but its dreams shape the future of all creation. And those who guard it sleep restlessly, knowing that their vigil is the thin line between order and chaos, between hope and despair, between the world as it is and the world as it might become.